friends, is Omar Marmoush, one of the most satisfying names to say if you are indeed a commentator, but even more satisfying apparently to ask if you are an article writer. Features flying out of the blocks about this guy from all over the place. And I'm loving it because he's just been linked with Liverpool. Obviously, he's an Egyptian, he's 25. He's also got a link with Canada, more on that later. And, of course, he's doing very well in the Bundesliga right now. In fact, to the point where, if I actually bring this, I'm going to bring this graphic down here because I actually quite like it. Look at this. Top goal scorers of the year in El Bundesliga, I think as they call it in Spain. Top 5 leagues and national and international cup competitions as well. Maybe slightly changes it, but he's got 9 games, 9 goals. He's a fantastic player. And he's really been taking off more recently. I've been doing a lot of research on him all morning. As I got to admit, I don't watch a lot of Frankfurt. But turns out there are a lot of people out there who do. And the 25-year-old who was born in 1999, making him possibly the prince to Mo Salah's king. Prince was an artist. He became a symbol. He had an album. Anyway, he's a forward. He is very dynamic, and he's got 32 caps and 6 goals for his international team. But he's also someone who has, I would say, a very high ceiling, which is why a number of people are very interested in him. He has had what I would describe as somewhat of an odyssey journey in the Bundesliga. Not only does he play for Frankfurt now, but if you look at his team progression, and I actually think it's better on transfermarkt if I bring it here. So he came through the academy in Egypt, which I think is called Wadi Degla. And he then moved to Wolfsburg and obviously played for Wolfsburg 2. He then went through to the Wolfsburg team. He then went to be loaned out to St. Pauli, so he's got good stock in him. And he scored his first goal there. He then really made it click when he came back from that loan spell and started to do pretty well in the second half of the 21-22 season. Was it the 2021 season? No, it was the 22 season. And then suddenly this guy gets loaned out to Stuttgart to the point where, at this point, I'm going to stop you in the story just a little bit. I'll leave myself in the middle like that. He's been on such a journey that it's hard to tell sometimes why his compilation is so long. Like, obviously he's been around since 16, 17, but that was in the academy. Really, he only broke through a couple of years ago, and I can't stress that enough. He broke through a couple of years ago. But now, really, people are really taking attention of this young man, not only because he plays for a side who are pushing to the top of the Bundesliga, I think they're currently 3rd behind the 2 leading teams, but also because he's looking very dynamic, because his pace is incredible. He was the 13th fastest player in the Bundesliga last year, and he is someone who has that level of confidence. He seems to have a bit of a swagger to the way that he plays. He has what I would describe as a slight arrogance to the way that he strikes the ball. And now that he's gone from Wolfsburg to Eintracht Frankfurt, which is, again, Bundesliga odyssey, I would say he's in a great position to go to the next level. By the way, his coaches also agree with this. Not only that, but after the great performance that he put in against Bayern Munich just the other day, where he scored 2 goals, and he's multiple times he's also getting assists as well, people are now beginning to speak about him in glowing terms. I think it was the director of football at Bayern who said, it's very difficult to stop a player like this, but we tried, they didn't. The same goes, obviously, for Vincent Kompany, unable to stop him in this game. And ultimately, I think he's one of those players who you can already see the astronomical rise. He's come through, like I said, very good stock. He's been through a number of sides where not only has the technical proficiency been instilled in him, the training, the fitness, all these other aspects seem very important at all of these clubs. He's not had actually a huge amount of injuries more recently. In fact, he's had a pretty decent run of it, and it's slowly watched his match ratings on most websites improve in at least the last year, to the point where now he's like putting in 8s, 8.4s on the SofaScore website. If that means anything to you, it might not mean anything to you. It means something to me, by the way. Of course, he's a very accomplished goal scorer, but I don't even think that's the best part of his game. I obviously think when you look at his compilation, there is a great compilation of some of his finishes. I think he's really audacious with his right foot. I think he's a great penalty taker in the first place as well. Again, maybe some similarities to someone like Mo Salah. And I also think he's been in a lot of teams more recently where they've progressed into this high pressing strategy, which not only levels the playing field for any of the sides who are looking to make up the difference to the top, but also is just a big part of playing in the Premier League. Of course, at the moment, I'm listening to, I think it's Ian Doyle. Is it Ian Doyle's book? Yeah, Ian Graham's book. The title is, I want to go big screen for this, How to Win the Premier League. It's a good self-help one, but very niche. I personally really enjoy it because mostly, obviously, he's talking about Liverpool. I'm looking to get him on the channel on a podcast fairly soon, but it's a really good listen. What really stuck out to me about it is how Liverpool profile players, how Liverpool look to see someone who's good in this league, we can get him over into our league and he will be good. Not only are they looking at character, which I think is a really big part of Liverpool's recruitment in recent years, and the players that frankly they're looking to keep on at the club, their character is a huge part of that, their leadership, their ideas, the way that they conduct themselves is a huge part of the way that Liverpool want their players to act in the dressing room, but also Arne Slot as well. On top of that, they're also looking at where they have stats which go from one league to another. They've got a lot of these AI models, they've got a lot of these ideas. Graham obviously doesn't work there anymore, but there are obviously continuations of his work and massive research teams who have done really good jobs at Liverpool, not only under Ian Graham, who I think was head of research during his time at Liverpool, but also obviously under Michael Edwards. And now we're looking at people like Richard Hughes to continue part of that legacy at Liverpool. This guy, so the weird thing about it is he's kind of beyond now the profile that you would say fits any Liverpool player in terms of signings, because he's almost too big now for Liverpool to sign. There will be a lot of competition for this guy's signature. But at the same time, he fits a lot of the profiles that Liverpool want. He's a creative, predominantly left-sided and striker style player, which is why I think when people bill him as Mo Salah's replacement, I find that a little bit unusual. I think Liverpool probably have other plans there or aren't quite sure what the plan is there yet. But the point would be, look at him. This is a young, audacious talent from Egypt who, admittedly, on his own part, already has good links with Mo Salah, has spoken to Mo on a regular basis because those guys try and support each other all over Europe. He also has decent links with Alphonso Davies. He does hold a Canadian passport, but I think he's made his allegiances towards Egypt. Great, good relationship with Mo. And he scored goals, key goals for those guys as well. So there's a lot to like about this guy. I would say there are also some deficiencies. A lot of people talking about his ball control when the ball comes out to him. He's very good on counter-attack and carrying it down the field. But again, if you want, and especially in the Premier League, if you want a player to be really good, they have to have that tight touch. They need to be able to take it in, so to speak. And they also need to be able to then turn and take it down the field. There were certain teams profiling him, which also gives me a very high opinion of him. People like Nottingham Forest made a bid for him, at least made a run at him during the summer, and he turned those guys down. He still has quite a while on his contract. It runs till the middle of 2027, and they're probably looking to extend that to 2028 just to get the maximum amount of fee that they want out of it for the player. But ultimately, he fits the Liverpool profile in that he's a good player, but he's also not someone who's so headlined that, they become unaffordable. They would very much be within Liverpool's price bracket. I definitely think they command a high fee for him. We're talking 40 to 50, probably more, because of his goal scoring record, probably because they know that whoever goes for him is going to have rated him in the first place as a young player, but also as a character. And I think overall, Liverpool are looking for someone to step into that area. The real conclusion that I come away with is I still think Liverpool know that front line is in flux. And it's been a great start to Arne Slot's goal-scoring tenure at Liverpool. They've had a minimum of 2 goals in every game, apart from the last game that we played and the game against Nottingham Forest. And that's very promising. But I not only think that speaks to the players, which I think last season Liverpool a couple of times really struggled to break down a few teams. Having said that, they've also done the same this year. I think there's also a system in there which is adaptable, and there are small adjustments which are made and words that are had between Arne Slot and the players, and also just confidence being boosted, players feeling they are re-imbued with a certain sense of energy. It doesn't mean that we have to hold on to Luis Diaz. I'd love to hold on to Luis Diaz. I think he's a really high-profile player. He's someone who's odds on to be within the best nominated players for player of the season. Same for Mo Salah. I think Mo Salah is 4th within that list, obviously behind some really high caliber players who've had a very high profile winning record as well in that time. But the point stands, Liverpool are going to be bringing in new players that not only will take Liverpool forward because they're younger. This guy's 25. He's only just going to be going into his peak probably by the time that he gets a transfer. Yeah, he was born February the 7th, so by the time that he's transferred next summer, he'll probably be 26. And he's the kind of guy that you want in your team. Like, when I'm watching his highlights, I think he has a real swagger to him. I think he has a real arrogance to him. I love the way that he goes to celebrate. I love the way that he strikes the ball. Seemingly, he has this sharp nature to him that I became familiar with when I was looking at Liverpool's front line under Klopp. And I think in more recent games, we've seen like a slightly more relaxed approach from Liverpool's front line. They're still very sharp, and like that in Luis Diaz, but we're seeing now a slightly more patient, less drive at the back line, unless it's Cody Gakpo in there. And I think actually Marmoush will bring a really interesting edge to Liverpool's front line. Whether he's the striker, which I'm interested to see where Liverpool go with this striker profile now. Doesn't seem like Nunez fits that. If Nunez was to leave, I think Liverpool probably would look at someone like Omar Marmoush because he can play multiple positions along the front line. Guess what? Slot loves that. He's adaptable, so it also means you can play him on the left side or you can play him centrally. And that fits the profile of who Liverpool have been looking at more recently. Gordon can play pretty much anywhere along the front line. He plays the false nine, he plays the left winger. He could be a replacement in the short to medium term for Mo Salah, though I think there'll probably be someone else in that space. And the same goes for someone like Marmoush. They want to keep you guessing. They want to be able to be adaptable within this time. And they want to be able to surprise the opposition with different tactics. He definitely seems like that kind of guy. He can go wide, he can come inside. I think there's a lot of adaptability to him when you watch his game. And the fact that he's seamlessly transitioned between so many different squads, not necessarily being prolific at all of them, but having a good foundation of the football that he's playing, speaks volumes to me. I think he seems like a really great character. Obviously, you'd always love it that he's been at a club and has had that foundation in the sense of, I think he's a good character. I don't think he's a bad person. But, you want clubs to want to keep hold of him, I guess is the point. And, if you look at this profile, he has had a lot of transfers in there. There's been a lot of loans out there. Wolfsburg didn't see the value in them at the time, but Eintracht Frankfurt seem to see it now. I'm all for that. Like, I really, if a club and he finally comes good at a club, fantastic. If not, I'll take the value. I'm sure that there are a lot of metrics that Liverpool see as the underlying values for those people. Liverpool have been linked with a lot of people in recent days. There's been talk of Christian Pulisic. There's obviously been talk of Omar, and Marmoush does have a certain ring to it. There's a really great profile by Manuel Veth on the transfermarkt website. And there's a great profile on the Bundesliga website that will link below. And I think when you can't really control when people kind of come to the fore or when they find their scoring boots or legs, whatever you want to call it. He's been growing in confidence. His stats have progressively been growing, which I also think is a really great thing. But as it says in the headline of this article over here, he's a goal every 63 minutes. And he's competing with the likes of Kane. He's competing with the likes of Haaland. Obviously, he's competing with the likes of Lewandowski in this time. We're going to need to be able to... I think what Liverpool need is a succession plan. And they're probably trying to lay down that succession plan before it comes back to bite them. I think there are a lot of people at the moment who are predicting this. Mo Salah stays, they think Virgil van Dijk stays, and they think Trent leaves. Most people would still paint that as a disaster. But I think, obviously, Liverpool aren't going to be able to spend any Trent money in that time, though maybe Real Madrid are going to speed up their pursuit of Trent Alexander-Arnold because one of their players is injured. It's just good marker. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I can't stress how little all these people know. The England account are doing a good job, though, of making Trent Alexander-Arnold and Jude Bellingham look like the best of friends, which they always have. But suddenly it seems a little more sinister, doesn't it, chaps? Just saying. Scouse, not English. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the profile of him. Should he become a more concrete option, I will be doing a very in-depth profile on him. I think he'd probably be, frankly, I think he's probably the guy to come in for Nunez rather than Diaz or rather than Gakpo. there is actually a bit of a good crossover here with Gakpo. He loves to drive the ball forward from deep, really great carrier of the ball. He's someone who seemingly is able to force the ball into the goal, which I also really like, and I think would go down really well in the Premier League. But I also worry that because he's playing for Frankfurt, he won't have played against all that many low blocks. And I think that's probably an adaptable element that we're looking for in any of our strikers. There's probably not that many players out there that are able to break down these low blocks or break down these, because there aren't that many players that play in these kind of systems. So I think what we're looking at is stats that show you can score goals from many different angles, whether you're sucking the opposition out and baiting them into something and then you're counter-attacking, or whether you just have a very high profile outperformance of whatever underlying stats it is that you have, and therefore you can be the kind of guy who can get forward and do something that seems a little bit special. I think Liverpool definitely will need to replace the special within this team very soon. You can't expect that to last forever. I think we've got a number of, I've said this a lot now, we've got a number of players within this team who have been performing at such a high level, we've almost taken it for granted. And if you're going to see those guys transition out, then you're probably going to need to see some new people performing at that extremely high level, transitioning in. Let me know in the comments below what you guys are thinking about this transfer. I think having another Egyptian in the team can only be positive. I would love to see a dual Egyptian front line. Is that the way that works? Probably. 2 Pharaohs up front. No way. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the profile. He's certainly someone who excites me. If you haven't already, just go and look at his highlights. Because not only are the kit changes great, by the way, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, you both have great kits. It's also just great to see him in so many different positions across the field, scoring such an array of goals. Comes from right, comes from left, comes from the centre, takes penalties, he's got the header in him. There are obviously some deficiencies to his game. Obviously, he's not going to be the complete package at 25, but I think he has a lot of the indicators that show he's someone who's very excited. Someone who's very exciting, and he's very excited as well. Appreciate you guys. I will chat to you again on this channel very soon, and I hope you are considering hitting subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the Discord. I'll see you in the Patreon. Much love. Bye.